Hello and welcome to the Success Showcase. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin from the Modern Observer Group. And with me, as always, is Chip Janiszewski from the Happiness and Success GPS. Chip, how you doing this week?
Doing great. How about you, Eric?
Doing fantastic. We are in the dog days of summer.
Happy August.
Start of August, and, weather's heating up and vacations are going on.
Good stuff.
So seeing as we're in the dog days of summer and people are going away and taking time off, we thought we would talk a little bit about putting together a summer reading list. And we've come up with about 10 books that you should read. If you can't read them this summer, certainly put them on your list. But if you've got time over the next month, these are 10 fantastic books that you can learn from, you can enjoy, and some of them, quite frankly, will change your life. So, Chip, what's the first one on your list?
Actually, the first one, as everybody out there knows, I spend a lot of time listening to things on Audible. So if you don't have time to read, every single book I'm going to be reviewing today, you can get off of audible.com and listen to while you're driving around, it's fantastic. So,
but actually, every book that we're talking about today is available through Audible.
Yep. So it's great stuff. The first one, which is something that I don't know if I would have picked up, but listening to it on Audible driving around, because it's kind of a long book. It's called The Boys in the Boat, and it's by Daniel James Brown, and it's about 9 Americans and their epic quest for the gold medal at the 1936 Olympics, and it's about the rowing team, the U.S. Olympic rowing team. And obviously, this was in Berlin with Hitler in charge and that kind of thing. And what the story is, it's about the team, and it's got they're drawing on the boys' own diaries and journals, and there's photos and memories in there and so on. But it goes from back in the days when they were young and in high school and going through college. And the keynote person in there is one rower whose name is Joe Rance, who was a teenager without a family or prospects, who's rowing not only for glory, but to regain his shattered self-regard and to find a place he can call home. The crew was assembled by a really enigmatic coach out at the University of Washington, and then a boat builder that they actually had come over from Britain to put the boat together. And it's very, very well laid out. There's a whole lot of ups and downs in it, and it will have you laughing and in tears about different things. It's just a fantastic read. So I highly recommend The Boys in the Boat.
Fantastic. I've actually never read that one, but it actually does sound very similar to The Boys of Winter, which is the story of the 1980 Olympic hockey team. So I think both of those are, very inspirational stories, and it's a great place to start.
Yeah.
The first book I've got on my list is actually Freakonomics by Stephen Levitt and Stephen Dubner. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with Freakonomics, it actually launched a series of books. The two Stephens are both economists, and Freakonomics shows you how to use economic measures to actually figure out why what you're doing is working or not working, and how it applies to so much more than just business. They talk about how they used it to analyze birth trends to discover what was causing falling crime rates in major cities. If you don't have the time to listen to the book or read the book, Freakonomics was also made into a documentary. I know for a while it was on Netflix. I think it still is. So you can find it there, but it really is all about finding a different way to look at things. And we've talked a lot about how perspective changes how you think of things. Freakonomics is meant to literally turn your perspective around and see things that connect that you never would have guessed. It's a fantastic book. It is not meant for economists, it's meant for just regular people. So it's very easy to understand, even though they're talking about a complicated subject. So I highly recommend Freakonomics.
And who's the author of that one again?
It's written by Stephen Levitt and Stephen Dubner.
That sounds good. I'm going to add that to my list because I haven't read that one either. So a third one is something that I got interested in a few years ago. It's a personal development book, and it's called The Tapping Solution. It's a revolutionary system for stress-free living. And basically what it is, it's just something that you can learn yourself. It's a technique. It's called the Emotional Freedom Technique. And it's a powerful tool for improving life mentally, emotionally, physically. It's been proven to take care of a lot of different issues, from anxiety to pain to addiction to fear, weight control, and that kind of thing. And it's something that you can actually learn in minutes. It's self-administrated, and I kind of call it like acupuncture with your fingers. And basically, the principles that it works with, which go way back into ancient acupressure and that kind of thing, it concentrates on specific meridian endpoints, which are in our head and also on our body. And when you tap on them, focusing on the negativity that's going and then turning it around, talking to yourself to turn it into positive things, it really works out well. And if you look up EFT or tapping, there's all kinds of articles on that. You can actually watch a book for the tapping solution that actually showed cases that got this going. But the bottom line is, it's something where all you do is you just take your fingers and you do a karate chop on your hand to come up with the issue and saying, even though I have this issue, I completely love and respect myself. And then you're tapping around your eyes and then down your cheek and so on and so forth. There's 9 different points that you tap on, saying this problem, this, and this. And then you start putting positive talk into that. And you could do it as a guided meditation, or you can just write your own scripts, and the book tells you how to do all that. So the tapping solution is a really, really great thing that you can actually, even if you're laying in bed, you can just think about it, like tapping yourself to sleep without doing it, to kind of get you in the mood to do that. So it's a very, very great book as far as I'm concerned, that I would definitely take a look at. You can probably go in there and take a look, if you just Google it, at what the tapping points are and that kind of thing, to get a handle on it. But it's a great book that really helped me out a lot, and it still does.
That's fantastic. I haven't read that book. I am familiar with the technique of tapping. One in particular, I know there is a point right behind your right ear that when you tap, it actually releases endorphins. And that's
Yep.
a great way to help relaxation. So, yeah,
Yep.
it's great that there's a book people can look at to find out where all these spots are and how to use it to better their life.
Yeah, and the author is Nick Ortner, Ortner, and there's actually a movie out, The Tapping Solution, which shows the whole thing in action. And you can probably watch that online, or definitely on YouTube. But look up Nick Ortner, The Tapping Solution, and it's really amazing.
Very cool. All right, so the next book on my list is actually a very recent one. It just came out a few months ago. It's called I Love Capitalism by Ken Langone. Now, Ken Langone has worked on Wall Street for decades. The book is essentially his autobiography. And what makes it a must read is the fact that Langone came up from nothing. He grew up on Long Island. His parents, both parents worked. They could barely make ends meet. And it's the story of how he got where he is through a work ethic. And he talks about having to work multiple jobs and how he managed to put together enough money to go to college, and how he made money in college and some of the mistakes he made. And it's really interesting because Ken is not a young man. So he was growing up right after World War II and into the 50s. In fact, he talks about how he wanted to, when he turned 18, enlist in the army and go fight in Korea, except just before he turned 18, the war ended. But it's really interesting to listen to what's going on now and some of the political complaints that people are making, that people have to work too hard and they can't make ends meet. And this is from the 1950s, and the situation is very much the same. And it shows that these are not new problems. These are problems that people have faced over time ad infinitum. And people with the will to do it, who want to work, who learn how capitalism works, always manage to escape these circumstances. So it's a really great story. Again, the author is Ken Langone, and it's called I Love Capitalism.
Now I have another book to add to my. I got a feeling I'm going to add 5 books to my list today, Eric.
Yeah, so I think I am too.
The third one that I have is by an author that you've heard of, but probably a title that you've never heard of before. The author is Napoleon Hill. Napoleon Hill is the gentleman who wrote Think and Grow Rich as a prompting by Andrew Carnegie. And basically what he did was he went out and he interviewed 25,000 normal people and 500 extraordinary outliers that all were set up really by Andrew Carnegie. And Carnegie financed him doing that, but didn't pay him a dime to write the book. And he wrote Think and Grow Rich, and it's been out, and it's sold millions and millions and millions of copies. What a lot of people don't know is the next year, in 1938, 1 year after that book came out, he immediately set out to create his next work, which was called Outwitting the Devil. Sadly, his imaginary interview was basically what it was interviewing the devil, which was really, really cool. And it never saw the light of day because his wife thought it was too controversial for its time. And it wasn't published until 72 years later in 2011 when she passed away. So the book has only been out for the last 8 years. And I listened to it on Audible, and it's really, really neat. The bottom line is he does outwit the devil by talking to him. And basically there's 3 lessons that he put forth in this one. Number 1, and these are very, very apropos, and you're going to really understand them. Number 1 is we spend our entire life operating from either fear or faith. Pretty powerful. Number 2, the devil seeks to make us permanent drifters, never getting around to what we're meant to do in life. And he's not talking about the devil being in hell or whatever, but the devil is really a state of mind in a lot of ways that brings us down. It's that negative person, the devil sitting on your shoulder type thing. But obviously by making us procrastinate and not get things done, that's going in the wrong direction. And then lesson number 3 is, he said, there are 7 principles which help us gain the mental, spiritual, and physical freedom. And he forced the devil to basically reveal every dirty trick in his book as far as how he gets us. And the 7 principles that Napoleon Hill came up with were: number 1, definiteness of purpose, which is right out of Think and Grow Rich. Number 2 is mastery over self, which is the principle of discipline. Number 3 is learning from adversity. Obviously, failures are just failures, and what you learn allows you to move ahead in a positive manner. Number 4 is controlling environmental influence, which means who you hang out with. If you hang out with a bunch of energy vampires, you're going to turn into one of them. Number 5 is time. Obviously, you have to manage your time properly. Number 6 is harmony, and this is basically sharpening the saw in the 7 habits of highly effective people. It's basically mental balance, spiritual balance, physical balance. And then number 7, he cautions us to always act, but caution is to think before you act. So it's a really, really interesting book. Obviously, it's great to listen to on Audible too, but it's very entertaining, and yet it's very, very useful. It's called Outwitting the Devil, and it's by Napoleon Hill.
Yeah, I've heard about Outwitting the Devil, and it was actually introduced to me through the story of that, how it went so many years without being published. I have not yet had a chance to read that one,